We're about to dive into a piece of wisdom so powerful, it's said to have instantly awakened one of history's greatest masters. But what does that ancient enlightenment have to do with that feeling of emptiness we sometimes get today?
Let's just start with a question that probably hits a little too close to home. Why is it that after all the hard work, all the striving, when you finally get the job, the relationship, the thing you've been chasing, there's still that quiet, nagging feeling of emptiness?
You know this cycle, right? It's brutal. The thrill of the chase, that brief high of finally getting it, and then nothing. The satisfaction just evaporates. And almost immediately, our mind latches on to the next thing we think will finally make us happy. It's like we're on a treadmill and we just can never, ever get off.
So this really brings us to the heart of it, this emptiness after the chase. But what if the problem isn't that we're chasing the wrong things? What if the very act of chasing, of constantly needing that next thing, is the source of the problem itself?
Well, the key to breaking this cycle wasn't found in some grand mystical vision on a mountaintop. Nope, it actually came from a simple conversation on a completely normal, even kind of boring afternoon over 2,000 years ago. I want you to just picture this for a second. This is the Buddha, not as some god on a pedestal, but as a real person. He walks into the city, barefoot, to beg for his lunch. He comes back, he eats, he washes the dust from his feet, straightens his cushion, and he just sits down. No fanfare, no divine light, just a man totally present in his simple routine.
And it was right there, in that moment of profound, ordinary stillness, that one of his followers asked the question we all ask ourselves: how do we find peace? How do we tame these restless minds of ours? And the answer? Well, it became one of the most important texts in history, the Diamond Sutra.
So, what's the first major piece of wisdom? Well, it's a concept that's pretty much designed to short-circuit our normal way of thinking. It fundamentally challenges the very nature of what we all believe is real. The sutra makes this monumental statement: all that has a form is illusory. And that word form, it doesn't just mean physical stuff. It refers to every concept, every label, every single idea we cling to. Our identities, our beliefs, our goals, all of it. The sutra says we're trapped by four main illusions. First, this idea that you are a permanent, separate self. Then, the idea that there's some fixed definition of what a human is. Also, the idea that there are separate categories of beings. And finally, the idea of a fixed lifespan, clinging to time, wanting to live forever. Trying to hold on to any of these things, the sutra says, is like trying to grab a handful of smoke. Now, to really drive this home, the Buddha uses this brilliant verbal trick all through the text. So pay close attention here. He says, I teach about the world, but what I am speaking of is not actually the world. It is merely a name, a label, that we have all agreed to call the world. And that just nails the point, doesn't it? The word is not the thing. The label isn't the reality. And this applies to everything. Your name is not you. Your job title is not you. They're just names. Okay, so if everything we perceive is just a label, just an illusion, then how are we supposed to live? How do we find freedom in all this? This brings us to the most crucial, most actionable instruction in the entire sutra. Abide in nothing and let the mind arise. This one line is so powerful, it's said to have instantly enlightened the man who became the sixth patriarch, Hunin. So what on earth could it mean? Now, it doesn't mean your mind should be blank. It's pointing to a mind that is completely free. Don't let your mind get stuck or abide on any one thing. Don't let a beautiful sight or a harsh word, a delicious taste or a painful memory completely hijack your entire state of being. Let the thoughts and feelings come up, sure, but don't cling to them. Just let them pass through you. That is real freedom. And then, just as you're starting to get it, the sutra does something absolutely incredible. It tells you not to cling to the teaching itself. It says this wisdom is like a raft to get you across a river of suffering. It's super useful, but once you get to the other side, you don't carry the raft around on your back, right? You leave it behind. Even the most profound wisdom is just a tool, not another thing to get attached to. So this all leads us to the final and maybe the most empowering realization. If you can't cling to things or to ideas or even to these very teachings, where do you look for salvation? The Buddha is unbelievably direct about this. He basically says, if you try to find me in statues, in physical forms, or if you seek me by chanting my name hoping for a miracle, you're on the wrong path.
You will never, ever see the truth that way.
He's drawing a really clear line in the sand here. So much of what we call religion is about seeking externally, praying for stuff, making offerings, looking for a savior outside of ourselves. The Diamond Sutra completely turns that on its head. It says the path is internal. It's about realizing you are not your thoughts. It's about letting go of attachments and finding peace right here, in this moment. The savior you've been looking for is already inside you.
And so, how should we look at this fleeting, beautiful, sometimes chaotic life? The sutra leaves us with this incredible piece of poetry. See everything as a dream, an illusion, a bubble on a stream, a shadow, a drop of dew, a flash of lightning. Just acknowledge its temporary nature, appreciate its beauty while it's here, and then let it go. This whole journey of deconstructing reality, letting go of attachment, and looking inward, it all brings us to one final, inescapable question.
If you are not your name, not your job, not your body, not your thoughts, not your successes or your failures, if all of that is just form, just an illusion, then who are you, really?
Subscribe for daily wisdom.